Dragon Blogger Nate here. Today I'm going to show you guys how to install the RM850X power supply by Corsair. This is an 80 plus gold certified power supply, and the most outstanding thing is this power supply comes with a 10-year warranty. Just a heads up, I am not a professional in any means whenever it comes to describing how to install computer components or just components in general, but I'll do my best to describe this in a way that's easy to understand but also technical enough. First thing you're going to notice inside of the box is the power cable that is going to run from the power supply to your wall power. You're going to have a big bag full of all of the power supply cables, some zip ties to clean up your work when you're done. And then of course you guys are going to have the main power unit itself with that nice Corsair branding all the way around it. This is a full size, full modular power supply, which means you're not going to have to use any unnecessary cables and your work is just going to look that much cleaner. So the first step in installing this power supply is simply uninstalling the previous power supply. So what you want to do is just make sure that you have all of your power supply cables already uninstalled, and then you can go ahead and start installing the new ones. So you guys can see right there that sometimes it's a little bit easier to install it on the component that the power supply is running to first, and then plugging it into the power supply itself after. So off screen, I uninstalled all of my power supply cables in the power supply unit itself. And I started installing this by simply hooking up my graphics card power supply on the graphics card end, and then I ran it through the case to where it's going to be installed on my power supply. One thing that my friend James pointed out is if you have a graphics card that has multiple pinouts, what you want to do, if possible, is install two separate cables from your power supply to the graphics card, because if not, you can starve your graphics card of power, and obviously that's not a good thing. We don't want that to happen. The next thing we're going to do is install my SATA connectors, and if you guys are unfamiliar with what SATA connectors are, those are just the cables that are going to supply power to your hard drives. Make sure you don't set this up in a way, if you have multiple hard drives, that you're going to limit yourself on length of cable. And so after you've installed all of the cables that run to your motherboard, such as your CPU power cables and your 24-pin motherboard cable, one easy way to get this installed without having the fuss of having to reach back there is keep the main power supply unit out, as you guys can see I'm doing right here, and then obviously just plugging everything in. What this is basically going to do is give you a non-constrained area that you're going to be able to work in, and then once you have everything plugged in for your specific setup, now you should be good to go ahead and set that in there. And so now we are ready to screw this into the case. And what you guys might notice while screwing this power supply in is that your case or the power supply itself might not give you the option to install 4 screws into this to mount it to the case, which is completely fine because 3 is definitely going to be enough. So just go ahead and get those all tightened down and you should be good to go. Listen, now this will be probably the longest portion of your install. And so after you guys have all of the cables, thingamajigs, and doodads ran to where they need to be and plugged in, what I would recommend doing is spending the most amount of time of this entire install doing cable management, because while yes, cable management does make everything look nice, it also can improve air quality inside of the case and airflow in general, which is overall going to translate to better performance inside of the case. So I'd always recommend having some spare zip ties on hand to clean up your work really nice. And as you guys can see right here, like I said in the beginning, I am not a professional, but overall this definitely does look really nice. And then the last thing I recommend you guys do is just go through and make sure that all of your connectors are nice and snug in their homes and their places that you plug them in at. So that's how you install a Corsair RM850X power supply. Thanks for watching, and me and my oddly shaped thumb will see you on the next one.